Hello everyone, welcome back to the Hideaway, and this time we have a guest that I've not had on yet, despite being a former member of 2 podcast series that I've done. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm KastorUK. I occasionally talk about stuff online, and then... yeah, that's pretty much it, actually.
Alright, so, so we got a big topic. We got Shonen Jump movie tie-ins, and
Just a
before
small
we get
one.
into that, I just wanted to ask, have you been watching or reading anything lately?
So, watching, not so much. With the amazing Viza, I've been keeping up to date with some of the Shonen Jump titles. Recently read through the Magu-chan God of Destruction. For as weird a premise as that is a lovely light-hearted romp.
Yes, it's got big devil as a part-timer. It reminds me a lot of that. About how it's just taking this godlike demon and putting it in really twee, mundane situations.
Yeah, and it's very, very innocent. Like, the entire subplot line of this guy wants to date this girl, and I think with the way the manga portrays it, like, if he holds her hand, he's fulfilled in life.
I mean, they're only like, what? Middle schoolers? Grade schoolers?
Yeah, you're right. No problem. Yeah. Beyond that, I've been keeping up with My Hero, One Piece, and really enjoying this last closing arc of We Never Learn. Still not as good as the actual ending.
Yeah, the Furuhashi stuff is actually solid, but I think we're actually going to cover that on a entirely separate podcast when it's all done, for sure.
Then I will leave it for later then.
Yeah. I have been watching a bunch of seasonal anime, so I guess I'll go through my thoughts on those real quick. There's the new hit webtoon adaptation, The God of High School, which is basically about this mixed martial arts tournament in Korea where they pit high schoolers against each other, and they have these high-tech nanomachines that can heal any injury, so they can just beat the crap out of each other. And first episode of this was really wacky fun. I was like, okay, this could be a good, dumb action romp. And then, as the show goes on, it gets even weirder. And, like, they introduce JoJo stands out of nowhere. Like, there's no superpowers initially, and then suddenly they go to, oh, they all have stand powers now. And then it goes from this weird, goofy arc about one of the characters trying to get married straight into serious drama with one of them betraying the rest and seriously injuring her. They try to have their Todoroki origin moment where the two friendly rivals have, like, a big fight where they really open their hearts to each other. And it's just, these two have known each other. They've been in, like, 3 or 4 scenes together, because apparently they've just been really rushing through the adaptation, and it shows. I don't know if you've heard about either of the new webtoon Crunchyroll adaptations, Barnaby.
I'd heard bits and pieces. I mean, this isn't making me want to watch them.
Yeah, I guess Tower of God is okay. It's kind of like the first arc of Hunter x Hunter if it had a worse main character.
You know that's not selling it to me, right?
Yeah, because you don't even like Hunter x Hunter to begin with.
It's okay. Don't message me. It's okay. It's just not as good as everyone says it is.
Anyway, to get on to other stuff, I've also been watching the reboot of Digimon Adventure, Digimon Adventure : which for the most part has been really good fun. The 2 big criticisms I have of it is, one, it's very much prioritizing the things that are marketable, so Greymon and Garurumon get way better animation than the other Digimon when they digivolve and fight. And also they're rushing straight to the Mega forms with Metal Greymon on that, instead of even having the Digimon just, I don't know, try to attack at the same time.
Well, I mean, if you are able to do that, I mean, it's a better plan.
Also, yeah, some of the characters feel a bit watered down. It's like Tai doesn't really have that kind of insecurity as a leader he did. Mimi doesn't have that initial brattiness that she needs to get over as much, but to be honest with Mimi, I kind of like it, because they still have those quirks there in little subtle ways. Like, there's a scene where they're on the beach and she's just sitting on a sun lounger while the others are on the ground. Or, like, Jo tries to use her a towel as, like, a white flag, and she's like, my towel, no! And just, Palmon's just like, that's not even your towel, it's Sora's. You were just using it.
I guess it's one of those ones where you do a sequel to a show that had an ending, when everyone's, like, character arcs have come full circle, and it's like, well, Ty's kind of found himself as a leader now, so he's kind of.
Well, that's the thing.
Where
It's
do we
not.
take
It's
it?
not a sequel. It's a reboot.
Okay.
This is a brand new series. You're thinking of Adventure Try.
Okay, yeah. This is how behind I am on the Digimon anime.
Yeah, that was a series of movies that came out a while ago, couple years now. I watched the first one and hated it, but yeah.
Fair enough.
Digimon's really interesting in that, like, it's a franchise that has tried so hard to do new things and new spins on it, and people just aren't interested. So they basically have to nostalgia pander the original adventure in order to make any money from it. Yeah, it's a shame, but I am enjoying the reboot though. I've also been watching Fire Force because there's a new season of that out, and a lot of people are quite. I don't know. Do you read or watch Fire Force at all?
No, unfortunately.
No. Have you read Soul Eater?
I have read Soul Eater. It was an interesting journey.
Yeah, no, because a lot of people are really disappointed with Fire Force. They're like, "Oh, this is such a disappointment from Okubo. It's so fan servicey," and I'm like,
You do remember Soul Eater, right?
"Yeah, it's okay." Here's my take on Okubo. As far as aesthetic and art style go, he's amazing. As far as writing goes, he's fine. You know, it's not like bad. He's just a passable shonen author with sometimes crowbars fan service into things too much.
Do people remember that the opening chapters of Soul Eater had
Yeah.
Blair in a bath, followed by Black Star trying to sneak up on Sabaki in a bath, and then Lizzie and Patty being tentacled by a mummy in a pyramid?
Yeah, no.
Literally
I think,
first three chapters.
Yeah, I think it's sort of nostalgia clouding the judgment of it.
Yeah.
But no, Fire Force is overall pretty good fun. It has a bit of a rough start with the first few arcs, but I think Okubo's world building and battle system are much better than in Soul Eater, and the anime adaptation has just been an embarrassment of riches in terms of animation quality. It looks really good.
I might have to check it out
Yeah,
because when Soul Eater was ending, it was just kind of, it felt like he'd lost a bit of control over like how the power levels and stuff were going to go. So if that's improved, I'd be really interested in checking that out.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a look. It's David Production, the same studio that did the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure anime, and they've really turned a corner. It's like the early seasons of JoJo's are good, but then like they've really stepped it up with Part 5 and this. They just, it's a whole other level. And then aside from that, I've been watching the second season of ReZero, which it joins the Attack on Titan club of we're picking this super popular show up 4 years later like nothing has happened. So the main topic is we've been watching a couple movies, including one that came out recently called My Hero Academia Heroes Rising. And watching this movie really made me think about the nature of the Shonen Jump or just the Shonen Battle movie tie-in. Because the ending has been pretty controversial with fans. A lot of people really don't like it. But I suppose, like, you've just watched both the MHA movies. What are your overall thoughts on them?
Honestly, I enjoyed both of them. They were sort of stereotypical examples of the modern shonen action movie. But as opposed to some of the other ones I've seen, like the One Piece ones, these actually fit the world. They were a lot better. I enjoyed the first one a bit more than the second, but I am intrigued as to exactly what the outcry is around the second movie. It was nothing that I've seen any other franchise adulterate the source material as enough for a final action piece. So,
Okay, so I guess my take, I was actually quite, because I went to see the first one in cinemas when it came out, and I was like kind of underwhelmed with it. It was like a very passable Shonen Jump movie to me, and I do feel like both of these, in terms of the animation, very much feel like feature-length TV specials with an amazing Sakuga spectacle at the end, rather than feeling particularly filmic. With that said, I actually enjoyed the second movie a bit more. I really liked the emphasis on letting all the kids have their own group fights with each of the opponents, which was a little more downplayed in the first one. So I guess, okay, we'll get into the ending. Full spoilers for Heroes Rising. So it ends with Deku transferring some of his quirk to Bakugo, and they kind of have like a Dragon Ball Z fusion where they both miraculously get really powerful. Like, Deku goes full unlimited 100% all for one, like he did at the end of the Overhaul arc, and then Bakugo gets his own Super Saiyan mode where he's got supercharged quirk powers. And a lot of people don't like this, because they feel it's really breaking the canon, and it doesn't really fit. So, I have two readings on the ending. The first one is that it is just breaking canon so that the series can do, okay, if the manga never finished, this is what the final fight would look like. And this is pretty backed up by what Horikoshi has said in interviews, where he's like, yeah, I gave the premise of this movie solely based on, like, this was an idea I had for the final fight, and I decided to throw it out and do something else. Or it could also be foreshadowing for what Deku could actually end up doing with All for One. But it does warrant the thing of, like, yeah, the fact that he just knows how to do this and that there are no downsides do stick out a bit. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So, it 100% does stand and stamp all over the canon, but it's a movie. Like, it's very rare to see a Shonen Jump action movie that doesn't treat the canon as a passing fancy. I guess I kind of went into it expecting it to be like, oh, we got to have a big finale that's kind of not been alluded to at any point before. So either it's like the first movie where we have a magic device that makes a quirk super powerful to the point where it can threaten All Might, or it's this one where it's the question of what happens if Bakugo gives away All for One. I mean, it's a cool what-if scenario. It's what I expect from a movie. But on the other hand, I do agree with the people who don't like it, because if you start to question why doesn't Bakugo and Deku just do this anyway at any point in the series, there's the question of it's a good point. It kind of undermines the point the series is going for, that Deku is the best person for All for One.
Okay, so I actually have a bit of a counter to this.
Go on.
I think as long as he, like, learnt how to do it, and it was established as a new thing he could do, I would be okay with Deku using his quirk like this in the series. Of, like, okay, I'm gonna transfer a bit of it to other people and supercharge their powers.
Oh, being able to keep it. Okay.
Yes.
I read that 100% as the movie retcon for why this doesn't destroy the series as we know it.
Yeah, no, because Bakugo completely loses his memory of it as well. But obviously we don't have to have that element of it there, and it could just be like a temporary power boost, because I feel like not only could you create some really cool action with that, like how does each of the Class 1A's quirks change when it's enhanced by All for One, but it's also just gives him a contrasting philosophy to how he uses his powers to Shigaraki, whereas the All for One lineage is very much, we are hoarding all the quirks. This is how One for All can do it differently. One for All can be shared with other people for the greater good.
Yeah, I would be 100% down for that.
Yeah.
Almost like the Naruto ending where all of his friends, apart from Sai, because fuck Sai, are in his tails in the giant Kyuubi mode.
But yeah, obviously Deku would have to actually learn to do this rather than just suddenly be able to do it in canon.
Yeah.
I also find it very weird that they're pulling something like this very early on. Like, this is basically their One Piece Stampede, and it's only their second movie.
Well, that's the thing. How long do you reckon My Hero's got?
Yeah, it does make me wonder, like, is the current arc gonna be the final one? This might date the recording, but as of when we are recording, Deku and Bakugo and all of the top heroes are fighting Shigaraki, and it's like, is this gonna be the final fight? I mean, the only reason I think that might not be the case is because we've still got 2 more years of school and 5 more quirks for Deku to learn. And this series is doing really, really well, so I don't think Horikoshi would want to, like...
Well, hasn't citation pending? I think I heard somewhere that Horikoshi was either had a fixed idea in his mind on when the series was going to end, or essentially there was a story he wanted to tell and he wasn't planning on going further. And again, citation pending. There wasn't much of a plan to do the full 3 years of UA with it.
Right. I mean, it really depends on how the current arc is going to pan out. We don't know if this fight is going to be conclusive, or if maybe Shigaraki's going to get put away in prison but break out later. There's a lot of directions you can go, or you can just have this be the climax.
Thing is, if you put him away, where do you go next?
Yeah, are you going to have another villain?
Do you do the Dragon Ball and essentially all Frieza's dead?
Or maybe it's like they put him away, and being in such close proximity to the original All For One gives him the last embers of All For One's powers, and he breaks out.
That's essentially just, oh, we finished the arc. Do you want to do the exact same arc again, apart from Shigaraki's stronger?
I guess we could make it more global, introduce heroes from the US and stuff, like Cowgirl.
I enjoyed, in the first one, I very much enjoyed seeing the American-themed heroes. I was actually surprised and impressed how they were less stereotypical than I was expecting.
So I mentioned that it's like a bit weird that they're pulling something this climactic now if the series does have more gas in the tank. But on the flip side, this could also be very fitting, because I feel like MHA's whole appeal, or not whole appeal, but a big part of its appeal is in how it's able to constantly cock tease, this is what the final battle is going to be like, while also very believably having places to go. Like, that, right down to the nature of Deku's quirk, which is, he can use the strongest quirk and do these crazy feats, but to a limited capacity. And rather than just having, like, 10 movies where he fights various different themed opponents in weird locations, we just have some very generic, uber-powerful ones where he just fights at absolute full strength. So it might be a bit more in keeping with the kind of battle manga MHA is.
I would agree with that. We've seen with One Piece what happens when you go down the route of let's make each villain thematic and interesting and in a different environment, and we've seen it run its course when they've run out of ideas, and we get some very samey final actions.
Really? Because
I think in the last few movies,
for the most part, it's the first 5 movies I don't like in One Piece. They don't really stand out.
Fair enough. I enjoy them because they are literally feature-length episodes.
Speaking of, I feel like we could get into this, so I wanted to ask, can you provide 2 examples of Shonen Battle tie-in movies done well?
Okay. One Piece, was it 4 or 5? Baron Omatsuri's Island? That is a one that always sticks out to me as this was a fun action movie that was in keeping with the universe, added to it instead of rehashing old ground. Second one. Let's try to not go with One Piece. So, nostalgia glasses on, the first Digimon movie, you know, the one that was...
Yes, Our War Game. So you've listed 2 Mamoru Hosoda movies. The same director.
Thing is, okay, I reckon the Japanese dub of the Digimon movie where they fight
Summer
on the
Wars?
internet, I really...
Which later on he just remade as Summer Wars.
Yeah.
Our War Game is very cool. I think it and Summer Wars have different strengths, whereas, like, Our War Game is very tight. It's very lean. There's exactly the right amount going on in it, and it never goes too long. Whereas I felt like I got a bit more invested in, like, the build-up to the climax. But yeah, Our War Game is awesome. And I also really like how they both do very different things with the aesthetic of the series. They're not just copying it wholesale.
No, I completely agree.
Okay, so I've got one example. So my examples are going to be... I'm actually going to say Boruto, Naruto the movie.
Okay.
I just think it's a really good case of just, like, a fan-servicey send-off. I really like the Marvel movie placement of, here's the weirdly specific Rasengan Boruto can do, and here's how it's really crucial in the climax. I thought that was very cute. It is just an opportunity for the animators to flex their ability of utilizing the aesthetic to its fullest. Like, it looks amazing, and they've brought back loads of the veteran animators from across the series. And I don't mind the fact that they introduce stuff like the ninja tools, or that, like, the new cast are a bit sidelined, because Boruto the movie is a send-off to the old Naruto cast, using Boruto as a conduit for that. It doesn't work as the first arc of a sequel series.
Nope. Like, the movie is good. I have a problem giving it credit by itself because it's too ingrained with the sequel stuff by now. It is the start of a new story, and a bad one.
So that's a good way to just do a fairly substanceless but fun fan service movie. Then I'd say my other movie I've picked is Dragon Ball Super Broly, because I feel like, one, it feels very organic. Everything just feels like a result of various characters' actions rather than just one master villain scheming everything. And another is that I feel like it really nails what the appeal of Dragon Ball is, which are these protracted fights that just kind of, the action is constantly taking these twists and turns, and I feel like it...
No, I can see that. I enjoyed Broly. Honestly, I think the first Dragon Ball Super one, where they first showed Super Saiyan God.
You prefer Battle of Gods?
I prefer Battle... But mostly I think that's just because Battle of Gods had the advantage of being the first new movie.
Yes, and they also played it very well by having Beerus not really be a bad guy, but just a really temperamental character that can blow up planets when he's angry.
And it's like, how do you make him look dangerous? You show how terrified Vegeta is of him.
Yes, oh, Vegeta in the movie is so good, and they've, like, done nothing with him since.
And then also have that arc of him demeaning himself to save his family, and then it not working, and then him exploding and surpassing Goku for a second.
So now, can you give me 2 examples of shonen tie-in movies done badly?
Oh, God. How long do you have? So here is the thing. Difficult to give 2, because a lot of them are bad. Well, that's not true. A lot of them are not very good. It's the issue that I can see parts of in most shonen movies that I enjoy. I can see a part of them that's good, but then they'll fuck it up somewhere else. Like War Z was a great start of a movie and an end of the movie. It was I really felt like it was missing the
Film
entire...
Z. I thought you were talking about the Brad Pitt zombie movie for a second there.
I'm getting mixed up. I'm conflating it with Strong World, aren't I? Yeah, Film Z, where that movie really felt like it was missing the entire middle. They just jumped from the setup to the conclusion.
So you'd really put that as one of the 2 movies on
No, that was more me drawing a line on. There are movies that when I think of what movie do I not like recently, so that would come to mind. But it's not that it's bad. No, sorry. Looking back, I now realise it's that it was good. I enjoyed lots of it, but it had very big flaws that made me more annoyed than it was just a bad movie.
I figured you were going to bring up Conquerors of Shambhala at some point. The FMA 2003 movie?
Yeah, if that movie can go fuck itself. Okay, yes. Okay, if we want to break into this shit. The entirety of the 2003 ending was bad. It was bad before they brought up the actual going into other universes and being Nazis. I mean, subtext is subtext. It's a lot better than going, have you realised these guys are a lot like Nazis? Hey, should we show you some Nazis to make you realise? Then deciding to
Mace Hughes is one of them.
And then deciding to do an entire sequel to a series that I'd rather have just let die and forget. Definitely do the Brotherhood. We all appreciate Brotherhood. And then doing the movie where it's like, let's go to Nazi Germany. It's like, can we not? No!
Yeah, the thing is, Conquerors of Shambhala, on a conceptual level as a tie-in movie, is not a bad way to go about it. If we have this series that is very much has a cohesive end, let's do a canonical sequel to it that isn't necessary but picks up the story. Because then you don't have to tread on the existing canon at all. You can just work from where it was. I actually dislike the Brotherhood movie a lot more. Because even though it's probably less offensive, it just doesn't fit FMA. It's a Shonen Jump movie, and FMA is a very concise manga. I guess, yeah, to go into it, I feel like a big part of it, it's the structure as well. Like, structure can be a big thing. Like, I think One Piece, My Hero, and Fairy Tail all fit the Shonen Battle movie structure quite well, because they're all about these self-contained arcs of the characters take on this villain in this location, and everyone gets their own fight, and it's repeated quite a lot. Whereas something like FMA doesn't really have that. It's the same overarching saga with the same running into basically the same villain group.
We're going to have to disagree on the One Piece one.
Okay, I'd say conceptually, One Piece fits the Villain of the Week battle movie well.
Oh, it should. Yeah, it should fit that. It does.
It doesn't. I never feel like, oh, this doesn't really fit. I don't know. I guess we are going to have to disagree on it.
I think my biggest thing I took away from the My Hero movies we just watched was in the first one, when the guy turns into a massive robot at the end. In my head, I was going, this works a lot better in My Hero than when it randomly happens at the end of a One Piece movie.
I mean, of all things, I wouldn't call it unfitting of the movie. My issue with Stampede was more that we only got a few minutes of the cool robot, and then he turned into a giant CGI sludge monster.
There is also that.
Like, there was nothing wrong with it conceptually in setting. It was just the way it was executed.
Here's why I think it worked with the My Hero. And it's not quite always the trope of, at the end of a Shonen Jump movie, the villain turns into a massive robot. It's at the end of a Shonen Jump movie, after a villain looks like he's defeated, he turns into a giant monster and then rampages for another 20 minutes. From a lot of the movies I've seen recently, that is the rinse, repeat ending, because that's the bit where you can get the new score that you've had written, especially for the movie, or the fan service fights that don't really mean anything in the fight, but will mean that people in a cinema will scream and shout.
Mm-hmm.
And in My Hero, you can have Deku and whoever's with him at the time go to the very end to defeat the small version of the villain, and it's impressive and great. But then, once he transforms, it's like, congratulations, Deku, you freed the big heroes who can now come and join you in this fight. So it's not the question of, wait, so if Luffy was having trouble beating the shit out of him before, how is he magically able to beat him up now with this massive let my monsters grow power up?
The damage sponging in Stampede is incredible. They take such a beating, and then at the end of the movie, they're just fine.
Whereas My Hero is, like, the first half of the movie, the problem at the moment is that All Might can't save everybody because people are being held hostage. Also, we have to do it quickly, otherwise he will transform back. That's good stakes. There is a good reason why the guy who could solve all this immediately cannot do this. Therefore, our mission is to let him do so. Then you do the power up with the magic hat of power increase, which honestly was not badly executed.
Right.
I still question how he got it, but then you can have All Might come in, and then it's the thing of, oh, All Might's having trouble with this guy. This is a big fucking deal because it's All Might. So then it can be team up, and it's impressive and makes sense.
Right. So I guess to go to My Movies Done Badly, and to go more into the structure comment, I don't really think I articulated this well with Broly, but one of the things that I thought Broly did really well is that, like, that simplistic, lean approach just fits what Dragon Ball is way better than, this is the villain of the arc, everyone gets a turn to fight the side villains, and then Goku fights the main villain, because that's not really the nature of Dragon Ball's action. It's very much protracted strings of fights where different people tag in and tag out on either side. And I feel like another series that really embodies this is Seven Deadly Sins, which is probably the closest modern shonen DNA-wise to Dragon Ball in that regard. And that's why the Seven Deadly Sins movie, I think it's called, like, it's not called Castle in the Sky, but Prisoners of the Sky. There we go. Castle in the Sky is the Ghibli movie. It feels so weird because it feels like it's trying to fit a square peg into a round hole by applying that kind of the conventional structure to it.
I haven't seen it myself, but I can definitely see it. I can definitely see the two styles working well, and I completely agree with what you mean on it fitting the Dragon Ball structure well.
I don't like any of the classic Dragon Ball movies at all. Well, not at all, but I'm just not a big fan of them. They do nothing for me.
I can see that. I always find it amusing when they try and give a reason for other people to be involved in the fight.
Actually, wait, the Dragon Ball original movies are actually quite charming because they just remake the series but an alternate timeline version of it with new movie villains, and they're quite charming. It's the Dragon Ball Z movies, I mean, but yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, it's just when the movies have the thing of like, oh, we've got to give everyone else a chance to fight. Looking back, I really enjoyed it with the Dragon Ball as a series was other people always got a chance to fight because for whatever reason Goku wasn't there. It was, only Vegeta is here to try and fight this guy. We all know that Vegeta can't really beat him. Everyone else is here because there's no one else, because Goku's not here yet. And it's either saving time for Goku to get here, or he's dead, or it's Dragon Balls, or Goku is off being Goku and we don't know where. So it's always a thing of like, it's not we're splitting up to fight the minor guys. It's, we've got to fucking fight this, because otherwise the planet's doomed, because we don't know when Goku's turning up.
Anyway, the other movie done badly I was going to mention is Hunter x Hunter The Last Mission, but it would just kind of be a rehash of what I was saying about the FMA Sacred Scar of Milo's movie, where it's like, you're doing a generic Shonen Jump movie where the entire appeal of this series is that the mangaka will just do whatever the fuck he wants and just flesh out the world in crazy ways, and very rarely will he do a conventional, just good guy team versus bad guy team fight arc. So trying to do that for the movie is like, why? This doesn't remotely capture the appeal.
Yep. I know. I can't imagine any Hunter x Hunter movie fitting with like the standard shonen action movie premise.
The first one, Phantom Rouge, is like, okay. It's like a 5 out of 10. It still has the same problem, but they at least, like, tried to recreate the tone of Hunter x Hunter a little. Like, they tried to go a bit darker with it. But yeah, the last mission, the second movie, was utter rubbish. Did not like it. Okay, this is a thought I have had about whether, like, a series really fits with the typical tie-in movie, and I feel like sometimes it's a structure thing. I went over this with, like, the One Piece and Fairy Tail and all that. And then you get, I think Bleach is somewhere in the middle of that spectrum for me. It's like the opposite of a Matsuri, where the content of Bleach fits a generic Shonen Jump movie really, really well, but structurally it feels a bit weird, because the Arrancar arc is so damn long, and is such a huge overarching portion of the series, that you never really, like, settle into the status quo of Soul Society versus Bad Guy Team by the time the movies actually happen. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just a pet peeve I have.
I enjoyed some of the Bleach movies, but then again, I enjoyed Bleach more than I should, so this might be slightly...
Honestly, I've been rereading Bleach, and I am mostly enjoying the earlier Rankar arc. I had a friend get into it recently, which sort of rekindled my nostalgia for it. She sent us one of the questions for the Q&A segment, so we'll get to that in a bit. But because initially I was kind of like, Ichigo's personality kind of gets sanded off over the Rankar arc, but then I've heard like a really interesting reading of it, which is like, well, kind of the whole point is that he's changed by the fact that he acquires so much power in order to protect his friends. And so by the end, you get to Fullbring, and it's like, he doesn't have his power, and he just feels right out of water when he's back in the human world. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of an interesting reading of it.
I think it's one of those things where you can read a lot of the Arrancar arc. You can even read everything up until the Fullbring arc. You can read a lot into it and extrapolate and theorize and see where a story would go. And then it doesn't. I'm still on the boat that says Kubo got stressed and bored.
I swear it's been reported that he had health issues.
Fair enough. I thought they were stress related.
No, I think he had health issues. I really wish that Jump had done what they did with Ashihara and transferred him to a monthly magazine before just like, oh, we need to end it quick.
No. Yeah.
I guess there was less of a precedent for it then.
There was also the issue that Bleach had been bottom rankings for a while, even before the problem started.
But that's the thing. It's not a series that plays well week to week. It's a volume seller.
Yeah.
Like, the volume sales were really, really good, so I feel like transferring it to a monthly magazine is the best thing you could possibly do for it.
So, the cynic in me would counter that with, can you imagine how much ink they would use per page if they gave them a month-long chapter?
Probably about the same amount.
They would, yeah, but I reckon about as much would happen in a week chapter as a monthly chapter with Bleach.
But look, okay, but take series like Seraph of the End or Blue Exorcist. Not very much happens per chapter in those, and they are very like sparse and cinematic in their panel presentation, and they perform well monthly. Like, they've pretty consistently worked for their audience, so I feel like that format would work really well for Bleach.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm honestly hoping that they do with the new Bleach anime something that they did with... What was the dog guy?
Komamura.
No, from the different anime... Inuyasha. When they came back and redid Inuyasha Final Chapter after cancelling the series before, they spent a lot more time on the final arc and like spreading stuff out, giving things a bit more attention than they might have gotten in the manga. My pipe dream is they do that with the new Bleach anime.
Yeah, incorporate some of the stuff from, like, the light novel spin-offs just to clarify what happened to everyone at the end. Like, we never found out in the series what happens to, like, Urahara, Yoruichi, Halabel, Grimjow. So many characters.
Yep, Harabel still in the weird fetish dungeon in Waco Mundo.
I guess another big sticking point for how a movie can fit or not is whether it breaks character. I know you feel that way about Nami and Film Gold.
Well, looking back, I think it's just that Film Gold has it as a focal point of the movie, because not many Straw Hats stay in character during movies.
The big one for me is Zoro in One Piece Movie 5, when he just up and abandons the crew.
Yep.
That one I don't like.
It's one of the reasons I like Baron Omatsuru's Island, because they all stay in character, but they all end up pissing each other off enough at the same time that things start to domino effect. It's an interesting thing of, like, it shows how strong the bonds of the Straw Hats normally are to keep them together, because they theoretically should so easily be able to fall apart, and why are any of these people able to stay with each other?
It's like when me and Wensleydale did a drinking game of that movie, and I think you suggested every time, because you'd just seen Film Gold and were still venting a bit, you suggested as one of the rules, drink every time the Straw Hats act out of character, and we, like, barely drank for that one.
Yeah, like, the only time I would drink is when Luffy kills him at the end.
Luffy kills the villain.
Have you heard the Oda logic on why Luffy doesn't kill people.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the same way that Oda occasionally answers questions that he doesn't particularly want to answer, or the answer is, it's a kid's shonen anime, like, why is no one in love with each other? They're all in love with adventure. His answer to this one of, why does Luffy never kill the villains? Because the answer to that is, A, it's more interesting to have them alive so I can write about them later.
Yeah, and have them either face turn, or just join a new faction, or do whatever shit.
And B, having a villain that doesn't always end by killing the antagonist is much more light-hearted and kid-friendly way of telling a good story. Without ruining the story.
I think one thing we touched on earlier, which I just like in shonen in general, the antagonist doesn't always need to be supreme heel. They can just be a fun character who's an opponent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we said that about Broly and Beerus. I like that about Kaku in the CP9. Like, he's actually a pretty friendly dude. He just works for CP9.
Kaku's just a guy with a job, and he's just like, I made a lot of friends at Water 7. I was sad to leave, but my job was up.
That is also one thing that's cool about the Soul Society arc, how, like, the Soul Society are just an organization of people, and as a whole, they oppose what Ichigo wants, and, you know, they're doing something that's unjust. But not every single one of them particularly wants to wipe out the Ryoka. Some of them don't have that much of an allegiance to the Soul Society's actual way of doing things and just want to fight. With, like, Kenpachi. There's a real spread of reactions, and I always think that makes it fun and interesting.
That was the Soul Society was very good because the enemy was bureaucracy. It was kind of along the lines of, no one wants to do this, but we have rules.
Yeah, and I think Byakuya and, I guess, captains like Soifon embodied that ethos of the Soul Society the most.
Well, Captain Yamamoto, who's just like, you little shits, these are my rules.
And then I guess, yeah, another sticking point for some people is when a movie is very removed from a series is like genre or content-wise, or tone-wise. A big one is like the recent, they're not really Shonen Battle movies, but the one that I want to talk about kind of is the Keshi Koike series of Lupin III movies. He's the director of Redline, if you've seen that.
Okay.
And he did, for those who don't know, Lupin III is a story about the cat and mouse hijinks of a gentleman thief, a bunch of his quirky companions, and this police inspector who's always running after him. And these movies are very much, they're not very heist-based. They're sort of fight movies with chase scenes in them. And they're very outside the realm of what the franchise is usually like tonally. In particular, I've seen... So the middle movie is my favourite. It's about the samurai character, Goemon Ishikawa. And it's literally just an excuse for them to do a cool samurai grudge match movie with the samurai character from Lupin, and also the other Lupin characters are there. But it's really cool. Like, I wouldn't call it emblematic of the series at all, but I am so glad it exists.
So, it's one of the ones where it is very easy when making a movie to give a series a new, like, tone or theme, and it to be bad because it doesn't fit. However, some of the best shonen manga adaptations into movies, those are the ones that slightly change the tone. Like, we've talked about Baronomic Theory. That's not that's a tonal shift for One Piece. Even if we look back at the Digimon internet attack one, it's like, what's normally happening in Digimon? We're in a magical, strange world and we have to survive. What's happening in this one? The entire world's in danger because the internet has a virus.
It's very funny as well. With the new reboot, they've kind of been working things from other iterations of the franchise into it, and they very much worked the war game angle into it. Literally, the first arc is sort of a retread of our war game with Matten and Tai meeting for the first time there. And I feel like the general effect of the digital world on the real world stakes is still carried over, although I don't remember too well. So it's interesting seeing that being worked back into the series. What about movies that adapt or readapt parts of an arc? The two big examples of these I can think of are the One Piece episode of specials and movies, and the upcoming Demon Slayer movie, Demon Slayer Infinity Train, which is literally just adapting the next arc of Demon Slayer after the anime first season leaves off.
Okay, so I've only had experience of the One Piece ones, and I'm not a fan.
Right.
They, compared to the actual arcs they're based on, they don't compare. They're too shallow. They miss important things. The characters introduced are paper thin because they don't have enough time to flesh them out.
Yeah, I rewatched the Chopper one recently, and honestly, it doesn't hold up that well.
Yeah, the Alabaster would not recommend.
That one was really bad. Okay, so I actually like the Nami one And they did a recent one, which was episode of East Blue, which was just quickly going through how each of the crew members in East Blue joined. The Baratier section of that movie is really good. I wish they'd just done a full special of Baratier instead, honestly. It has, like, one of the best renditions of Sanji versus Gin. The episode of Sabo one is particularly bad, because it's like, let's adapt one section of an arc that's in the middle of a huge overarching story thing and doesn't really work on its own, and the arc isn't even finished yet in the manga, so we just have to kind of awkwardly stop.
Episode of Sabo. It's just like, if any character does not have enough going for them at the moment to get an entire movie about them.
But Castor, ASL, Ace Sabo Luffy.
Yes! Yes! Yeah, and if Sabo had any defining characteristic that wasn't, hey, I'm less interesting Ace.
So, in regards to just adapting an arc, I'm less keen on that generally, because it means it's a really awkward experience to watch for newcomers, because they're watching through the series, and then suddenly, when the next season comes out, it's like, oh, they've skipped an arc. So if you've not seen the movie, you're lost. I don't love that. So that, like what they're doing with the Demon Slayer movie. And I guess, like, another example is something like compilation movies, where they recut bits of the series into a series of movies and maybe reanimate bits. The less lazy ones will reanimate bits. Have you seen any of those?
Not off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
This is actually mainly outside the realm of Shonen Battle. It's like sports stuff like Kuroko and Haikyuu do this a lot. Code Geass does it, which I wouldn't really call a Shonen Battle series. Attack on Titan, I guess? I don't think of Attack on Titan as a shonen battle series, but, like, it is a shonen with a lot of battle in it. It runs in a shonen magazine. Oh yeah, of course, the 10-pound gorilla of this is the Gurren Lagann movies. Have you seen those?
Oh, fuck, have I? I must have. Must have been years ago, but I love that show. It was at a time where I must have seen the movies.
Okay, I would not call it a replacement for the series, but the second Gurren Lagann movie, which covers the second half, as just a piece of Gurren Lagann fan service, is such a treat. I could stick it on any time and have a great time. They reanimate a lot of it, and they also completely redo the final fight, so that the final fight with the anti-spiral is like Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann form gets split up, and then each of the characters gets their own Tengen Toppa mech, and it's Gainax going hog wild with all these cool new designs. It's so lavishly animated, and then they all combine and they form like a super giga ultra powered up version that's just a giant massive spiral energy in the shape of Kamina. It's amazing. So yeah, watch the second Gurren Lagann. The first one isn't that good. They change up the final fight in that as well, but all it does is just kind of take away Simone's big moment of growth when he gets over Kamina and be like, okay, he has that, but now the other characters are doing stuff as well. It's like, I'd rather just let that moment breathe.
And the other characters were also here. Let us look at them.
So I feel like we've gone quite thoroughly. I'll get into the Q&A now. So, it's weird. This was the reverse of how it usually goes. Usually, I'll do a Twitter post and some Reddit prompts, and Reddit will always give me way more. Reddit was fucking useless this time. Nothing. But, luckily, we have some Twitter questions. So, Liam Antaska asks, how is it that One Punch Man hasn't got one? I feel like there are two ways you can approach this. Does One Punch Man work in a movie format? And the business side of it, which I feel like is the real reason. What I've gathered, and I'm not well researched on this, so I'd be open to being corrected, but I think One Punch Man did really well, the season 1 did really well to sell the manga, and its actual sales in Japan weren't that great, so that's why they kind of half-assed the second season.
I think it's one of those ones, again, citation pending. It's one of the ones where it is more popular in the West than it actually is in Japan.
Because the manga did sell really well in Japan, but yeah, I think the anime as a sensation just blew up more in English-speaking territories.
There is also the issue of what story would you tell? Exactly how are you going to have a big 10-minute boss fight? It's going to be over in 5 seconds, otherwise you've missed the point of the movie.
You just kind of do the same thing you do with Boros, where they just go around and dance around a lot and do a big spectacular showdown, and then at the end he punches him.
Yeah.
And you also, most of the movie is just going to be all the side characters showing off cool attacks.
Only way you could do a shonen action movie for One Punch Man is if you did a Deadpool-style riff of modern shonen action movies. Just dissect and point out how it's all stupid.
That's what I really like, how they've I don't know if it's released yet, but they are doing a One Punch Man fighting game, and the central mechanic is just waiting for Saitama to arrive.
Okay, I'm
I
all
love that as a
for
way
that.
to do it.
Like, it's like, here's a bunch of enemies.
It's like there's a bad guy player and a good guy player, and the bad guy has to defeat the good guy player before Saitama arrives.
Oh,
Or something like that.
That's fucking great. I love that.
But yeah, okay, I've got a question that sort of spins off from this whole topic. So what is one Shonen Battle manga, anime, or franchise that has yet to get a movie that you'd want to get one?
This is going to be the issue. I would put money on the fact that anyone I suggest, you'll tell me, oh yeah, that's got like 3 movies.
I mean, I feel like I'm pretty well researched on this, so you could ask, you could put one forward.
This is the thing. There's not really a shonen manga that I think would do well that already doesn't have one. Because movies, after an anime, movies come very...
I mean, Black Clover is a very solid performer for Jump. I'm surprised they've not done a movie for it yet.
Okay, surprised it hasn't got a movie, and wanting a good movie are very different things.
Boruto hasn't had a movie tie into the series. It's just had the movie...
Arguably.
It's just had the movie that then they adapted into the series.
Do they then call it Naruto the last, Boruto the next movie?
Soul Eater hasn't had a movie, actually, or Fire Force.
I'd be interested. Well, you told me I will check Fire Force out. Soul Eater, it's been too long since the Soul Eater movie.
Yeah, I was surprised that it didn't have one when it was big.
Yeah.
Because Soul Eater definitely got big. Like, it did well enough that they rebroadcast the first season with all new openings.
That's one way to save money.
Yeah, I think, okay, one that would be really interesting for me is a JoJo's movie. Now, I think the best and obvious way to do this is to just do a movie adaptation of Purple A's Feedback, which is essentially, it's a novel spin-off of Part 5 that explain what the hell happened to Fugo. Fans seem to really like it, and a lot of them seem to agree that it would work pretty well as a movie, the ones that have read it.
Fair enough. I've not read it in its entirety. I tried, then got bored and read the Spark Notes.
Oh, is this all of JoJo's, or just that
Oh no, I've read the entirety of JoJo's. It's the what the fuck happened to this character side story.
Right, okay, you read some of that. Okay. Maybe it would work better in a visual format, I
see.
don't know.
Also, there is a thing of, there are things people enjoy that I think are not good, so if they think it's going to be good, and they outnumber me, fine.
Yeah. I think the other 2 ways you could do a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure movie is... You can have the parts 2 to 6 JoJo protags just run into each other for an adventure, just because they all are alive at the same time.
I 100%. All you have to do is make the villain stand, or give somebody a stand that can time travel, and you can do, my stand is Another One Bites the Dust or Final Countdown or something. Like, you make it the villain stand...
Final Countdown! Oh my god, yes!
And it's... Yeah, my stand at Final Countdown! And it summons the greatest fighters from history, and when I beat them I gain their strength.
Yeah, so they do a Bonds Beyond Time, where they just summon each JoJo as they were young, in their part where they were the main character, and they all get warped to the same time period or mysterious zone, and they all forget it completely after it's done, because we need to maintain the canon or something.
Oh yeah, because you can also do some very, very funny jokes. Like, you can have young Joseph turn up, meeting Jotaro, just like, wait, you're my son? What, from my wife? No. But I love my wife. Wait, what? And then his grandfather turns up. Joseph, you shame the family. But I haven't done it yet.
Giorno's just like, he sees Jonathan, and he's just like, I'm not gonna tell him about my heritage.
Who's your father, young man?
You know, I wasn't birthed by your body with the mind of your worst enemy attached to it. I wasn't birthed, no.
You look very similar to somebody I know, yet you have the Joseph mark, so I guess it's okay.
I think Jolene and Josuke could have some very fun interactions.
Oh, yeah. I would also like Johnny, or the one people from the new universe turning up. Like, who are you from? Who the fuck are you guys? We're the Joestar line. But we're the Joestar
No, we are the Joestar line. I've still not read JoJo Leon yet. I'm waiting until it's ended so I can just binge it.
I tried, but I think that's definitely the best way to read it.
I adored Part 7, Steelbook Run.
Part 7 was very good. Looking back, it's very enjoyable, the transition it took between entirely new story. Or I guess I could do stands again.
Yeah, and the stands were handled very differently to how the original timeline handled them. Like, they were a bit more subtle.
But it was at the start when there were no stands, and then it was just like, stands. Do stands again.
I mean, I don't know, because I read through it quite recently. there were definitely hints that they were going to do stands quite early on. It's like literally the first stretch of the race. You see one, like, I think hiding behind a fence or something. And it's a clue that the lucky guy is like, oh, the lucky man has a stand power.
Okay, cool. I like that. I had not realised that, because they do say at the end that he just had a bullshit quirk.
Okay, so this is one thing I'm wondering. Has there been a slowdown? Because I'm just thinking about, like, the Big 3 era and the Dragon Ball era, where it felt like they did Shonen Jump movie tie-ins or just Shonen Battle movie tie-ins every year. And now they're much more spaced out and a lot more sparse.
Potentially.
Yeah. I mean, the My Hero movies came out at about the same rate as the Dragon Ball movies did, I guess. But then, I guess Detective Conan, which isn't really Shonen Battle, that they still churn those out on the regular and they make insane amounts of money.
I guess times have just changed. It's like the era of going to the movies is kind of waning. The era of watching things online at home is rising, which is why I think we're seeing more of more series not taking 10 chapters of manga and then adding 20 chapters of filler, but just going, we'll make this 10 chapters, 10 really good season, and people will come back for it, because we're not having to, like, compete for the 7 o'clock slot.
Yeah. KastorUK on Twitter, she's the friend I mentioned who got into Bleach recently.
Good, she has good taste.
She asked, who's the best Soul Eater character? And then it has an eyes emoji and a syringe, so I think you can guess which one has her favourite.
Well, the answer's Soul.
Soul? Okay, I've never heard anyone say that.
Well, he's the most interesting.
Okay. Probably my least favourite of the main ones.
Really?
Yeah, I found him a bit boring.
So, okay, who would you put so I can tear them down?
I really like Tsubaki. I think she's really funny, and I like the fact that deep down she's a bit less composed than she actually seems. I really feel for her having to put up with Black Star all the time.
Well, we both know the real reason why it's Tsubaki.
Okay, but that doesn't. I guess that doesn't hurt or anything.
Well, at least he didn't say Liz and Patty. So, no, okay, I can see Tsubaki. No, I can see liking Tsubaki. I found her, she was fine. I thought she was good. She was good supporting cast. It made Black Star interesting. Her story of her brother and embracing a more, is emphatic the right word? A stronger personality of herself as time went on was interesting. I kind of liked Soul's story of madness, of him.
Oh yeah,
of just
he did have that whole angle, yeah.
There's just the room in his mind with a piano and a devil, and it's just that at all times it's the literal devil on his shoulder saying, come play.
Okay, yeah. It could just be that I'm not remembering him very well. Because that was a really strong angle with his character. I did prefer the madness angle with Stein.
Yes.
But yeah. And by the way, KastorUK, if you're listening, Grail also likes Stein the best. One of our regular podcast co-hosts is on your team.
Stein is a good character. I just prefer Soul.
Speaking of regular podcast co-hosts, our next question is from Wensleydale Cheddar, who says, give me a pitch for the Bleach Hellverse movie tie-in, but with all the Stammer Stream meme characters. I will never escape Stammer Stream memes. I will never make something that is... that appeals to a wider audience. Okay, so for anyone listening right now, you're about to be bombarded with a lot of inside jokes you probably won't know. For some context, me and Castor and Wensleydale were on this podcast before I started this one called the Stammer Stream, where we looked at Jump manga week on week, and we came up with loads of inside jokes. Do you have any ideas for this?
Oh god, no.
I actually have some. I made notes.
Go on. Nothing that would actually translate into something usable.
So August is the one who kidnaps Yuzu at the start because he wanted to know exactly why the Emperor never loved his child, so kidnapped a child himself to properly judge it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He even gets like an Ulquiorra-esque, like, the heart, like angsty monologue, but it's about the Emperor loving his child. Wensleydale also said bonus points, don't forget Takumi, which, I guess I don't win that bonus points because I have forgotten what our meme was with Takumi, so I decided to make that a part of this new pitch. Takumi is tagging along for the rescue mission, but Ichigo and his friends are constantly ditching him and forgetting that he's there.
No, seriously, who was Takumi? I've literally forgotten.
Crying Yozan is a demon that utilizes his rage and misery to power up and sends up shockwaves of his high-pitched cries.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right for a Bleach movie, yep.
Justice League Harem Manga Edition take on Jonah using their ecchi skills to try and stave him off because they are just so disgusted by the hot garbage unfolding in front of them. Also, apparently, the Stammer Stream crew are in the movie now.
No, we're doing a different movie now. We're doing the ecchi.
We're doing the Stammer Stream crew and Takumi and us go to hell and fight some bad guys.
Okay.
Rindo takes on the two of us and uses our highly diverging takes on her character to turn us against each other. And then Ichigo's power-up at the end of the movie isn't skulls, it's the derpy coffee mug that Germa were drinking out of in Whole Cake Island.
Yeah,
It's just a bunch of derpy faces all over him. So, yeah, that's my pitch of the Bleach movie with Stammer Stream meme characters. Okay, everyone who hasn't seen the Stammer Stream, come back in. Welcome back. Welcome back to a podcast you remotely understand.
Yep, and if that wasn't cut, you know we really hit rock bottom in this episode.
I can't get a question and then cut it. That's rude.
Nah, you can't.
That's rude. Also, I was actually answering this was really fun. So I think that about covers everything. Is there any other topics you wanna talk about or discuss?
No, it's been interesting discussing Shonen Battle anime and just going on from your perspective. There are actually different ones.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people I suggested this podcast to was like, oh, there's not much you can talk about. They're all basically the same. I'm like, but they're not. That's the thing. There are some outliers, and that's interesting to get a discussion on.
This one's giant robot villains purple.
It was great to have you on. I can't believe it's taken this long. I've been really wanting to have you as a guest for a while, so thanks for joining.
No problem.
And yes, other stuff to check out. I don't believe Castor wants to be followed anywhere.
No, please don't follow me. It's creepy.
Castor might be on for future episodes, obviously, though. And yeah, you can follow me at Hovin with an H on Twitter. Check out my podcast, Hovin's Hideaway, at anchor.fm/Hovins-Hideaway. I think that's it. I'm not sure. Or just Google Hovin's Hideaway. It's on various podcast apps. Please, please, please check out Duckface Diaries, the World Trigger read-through podcast myself and Wensleydale release monthly, where we recap each volume and then go through our thoughts. If you're on the fence about getting into World Trigger but want like a nice piecemeal way to get into it, it's the way to go. It's the way to go. I hope that facilitates it. So yeah, that covers everything. Bye.
Bye.